Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Dailies on Eco Television, where we keep you updated with some of the current news on the front page of the paper. Please do well to, drop your comment, your views after going through the stories together. I am Sana Elisha Dashon. I'll do this together with Rachel Tanzi. Good
Good
morning.
morning, Sally.
All right, we will be running through the papers, starting with a Punch newspaper.
The first story is on tariff hike. Labor subscribers plan telcos shut down March 1st. On tax reform, reps divided as bills kill first reading. Federal government may ban trucks as tanker fire claims 493. You can find details on page 21. Abia PDP chapter devised NWC order. Autumn and Yahoo face panel March 4th. The big story on the Punch, Tinubu's re-election. ACF others tackle Ganduje over no vacancy coming. The writer says Babachi hints at not consensus candidate as ACF Mohammed counter APC chair. You can find details on page 2. APC's private firm for membership e-registration. Hoodlums in court for abducting policeman in Ondo. Reps summon customs CG over officers' retirement. You can find details on page 7. We have a picture story with the caption Tony Olumelu's Foundation partners UAE entities to empower African entrepreneurs, where we can see the founder Tony Olumelu Foundation, Tony O. Olumelu, and the Director General of the Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan Foundation, His Excellency Mohammed Haji Al Kari, during the signing of USD 6 million strategic partnership agreement between the two foundations to provide business training, mentorship, and access to network and non-refundable $5,000 seed capital to an additional 1,000 young African entrepreneurs at the World Government Summit in Dubai. This happened yesterday, and that's all the news on the Punch newspaper.
On leadership newspaper, Tinubu pushes AI tech collaboration with Google, data found on page 23. Anxiety over Taraba deputy governor's whereabouts. You can do well to read that story inside the paper. Trending on the paper, 8 security agents destroy illegal pharmaceutical products. And then on numbers, UN releases $5 million for action against floods in Nigeria, data found on page 2. Concerning tariff, we will shut down telecom operations, Labour is warning. You can read what they have to say regarding that concerning the March 1st, 2025 shutdown that they are intending to do, with detail on page 7. Tax reform bill passed second reading in reps. Nowhere matches Africa's ROI potential, coming from Ilumelo. You can find that on page 25. 20,000 Nigerians killed in 4 years. This is the report. You would love to find out where and how on page 19. Only 2 banks meet new capitalization target, coming from Finch. 4 killed as Benue record 36 Lassa fever cases, and this is, we know, the reason why we have all of this. You can read more detail of that on page 7. The big story regarding anti-party activities. Crisis bills in PDP over disciplinary committee, with the writer Autumn threatening legal action, demands apology within 48 hours. Committee adjourns for 2 weeks, and then Abia PDP insists on Wubara suspension, with detail of the story found on page 4, and that's all on the leadership newspaper.
On Nigerian Tribune newspaper, the first story is an advertorial. LG poll, how Oshun APC lost at the Court of Appeal. The big story, tax reform bill survived in reps, scale second reading. The writer says lawmakers back NGF's position on VAT sharing formula, 50% equity, 20% population, 30% derivation. Call for stiff penalties for tax evaders, airing public funds managers. Kicks against insurance of exemption order to boost revenue generation. Back existence of TET fund, the SENI and NITDA. PDP NWC confirms Ude Okoye as National Secretary, transmits name to INEC. Senate scraps special fund account for regional development and commissions, NYSC. IBEDC Reconnect UCH. Finally, you can find details on page 16. Catholic bishops denounce resurgence of herdsmen attacking Southwest tax governors on security. How Jup Burkhardt, who lived for books writers, died in his Ibadan home. You can find details on page 17, and that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
On the Daily Times newspaper, Tinubu announces AI tech partnership with Google, data found on page 2. And then as well, we have disciplinary panel, Benue PDP disown petition against Autumn and others. Big story on the paper, NLC declares daily telecoms boycott over tariff hike. Urges Nigerians to drop MTN, Airtel, Glow daily from February 13. That is from today. Halt data purchase as it's threatened total nationwide shutdown by March 1st. You can read more detail of that on page 2. And I think this is where we need to ask them the question. Since yesterday network have been extremely bad, I wonder what is really happening. Nobody can be able to access any like say pages or apps that are quite strong, except those that are very light that you can have access to. And I don't want to even imagine how many businesses have to suffer from yesterday till today, because a number of people were even unable to have Zoom meetings as a result of the bad network. And presently, even as I'm talking, just few of those networks you can be able to access. And we know a number of Nigerians, a chunk of Nigerians actually use the most popular one, which happens to be MTN, and MTN has been terrible since yesterday. So with all of this thing, and then NLC threatening that they will actually boycott and actually shut down the economy come March 1st as a result of telecoms. I hope that they are ready for what is coming. So we hope that before the end of work today, I'm trusting and I'm hoping they will rectify whatever upgrade they're doing, whatever adjustment they're doing. Please, they should try and tidy it up on time so that people can have access to all of these platforms that they need, all of these services to access it.
Whatever these network providers are going through, MTN in particular, I think that consumers need to know ahead of time, and this is what they fail to do. Usually, we would get text messages saying, you know what, network, yes, will be down for this period of time for maintenance and all of that. But I don't think this is the case, because everybody just seems to like figure it out for themselves and assume that perhaps there is an upgrade due to the change in the tariff price and all of that, and that is why we are having this network. But you see, this is not the first time tariff is being changed, and this kind of issue was not did not occur. So you wonder, what is the problem now? So on another side, are you beginning to develop problems that Nigerians should like open their eyes? Because on one side you are about to increase your tariff, on another side your networks have been poor for 2 days now, because since yesterday and today we are into another day with such poor service. So I just hope that it's not all about, we need to increase our tariff, but the quality of the services. Yeah, exactly.
So let's keep our fingers crossed, because the last time we saw this was when I think the cables had issue where they were trying to rectify, and that was understandable because they actually let Nigerians know that this was what is happening. So let's keep our fingers crossed regarding that. Still on Daily Times, looking at downside of the paper, federal government reaffirms commitment to local government autonomy. You can find that story on page 5. Nigeria in darkness as the national grid collapses. You can find it on page 5. That happened yesterday at around 11:30, but I believe they've actually improved because the power is back. And then also we are seeing HOR passes tax reform. That is the House of Rep passes tax reform bills for second reading. So you can do well to read detail of that on page 5. Federal government advocates shift to 12-year basic education mode. We will recall the last time we saw the story, they said it was just a proposal. Now we're seeing they're advocating for the shift actually. So we are no longer going to be having the 6-4-4. We're going to be having 12-year basic education. So you can do a read more detail of that story inside the paper, and that is all on Daily Times newspaper.
On the Guardian newspaper, businesses, homes count losses as national grid collapses again. Revert to old tariff before March or face total strike, NLC tells government telecom operators. Edo Election Tribunal, PDP alleges conflicting testimonies, APC to present 28 witnesses. The big story, importers divert cargo to Togo, others to evade tariff hike. And I think we have an infograph here where we see various charges levied on importers. Now, NAFDAC certification is 500,000 naira, and we have some certification is 500,000 naira. Now, we have terminal operators and shipping companies service fee up by 30% to 45%. Now, we have NESREA other environmental agency charges. We have 150,000 to 200,000 naira. And then we have demurrage for 20-feet container is 48,000 naira per day. And then that for 40-foot container is 68,500 naira per day. For 40-foot container clearance, we're looking at 26 million naira, and 20-foot container clearance is 20 million. So this is what importers have to face, apart from certification of 500,000 from NAFDAC and some 500,000. We're looking at 1 million added to the 26 million. If yours is 40 foot, you add that 1 million, now you're looking at 27 or 21 million. And then with these extra charges of either 150 or 200,000, and then you see that, of course, if importers will find a way of diverting their importation to be able to evade tariff, then they might do that. So I just hope that the port authorities know that certain levies that were introduced, there was a 4% recently, FOB that was on hold, because these charges are a lot. And if we do not make sure that importers are following our port, we stand to lose money, whether we like it or not, because these invaders are succeeding, and the aim is that let everybody go through us so we don't lose any kobo precisely. But when we put things that are making people to go through another way, then we are losing money at the end of the day, even if we think that these hikes are important. You can find more details on page 6. Group laments over 5,000 Nigerians stranded in Iraq. 124 journalists killed in 2024. Israel mostly responsible, says CPJ. Tinubu meets Google, wants Nigeria to drive Africa's AI evolution. Kano uncovers multiple illegal private financial accounts. Tax reform bills advance amid pushback on phasing out key agencies. And that's all the news on the Guardian newspaper.
On Blueprint newspaper, Wike visit contractors assures compensation for affected structures. We detailed in the paper. On news, Nigeria got $52 billion as intervention in 10 years coming from Afrexim Bank. World Cup qualifiers, Nigeria stormed Rwanda in 2 chartered flights. You can find detail of that on page 32. Troops neutralized Kachada, Nafarasa, Dogo, Bergulo, others in Zamfara and Sokoto. Other 4 enclaves destroyed. Detail found on page 8. TAF partners UAE on $6 million empowerment for 1,000 young Africans. The big story on the paper, PDP crisis, Fister Autumn Anyanwu orders Sean disciplinary panel. Ex-Benue governor threatened legal action. National Working Committee fraction affirms Ude Okoye. Ikimpi panel picks March 4th as new date, insists chief tells while invited. El-Rufai suffering persecution complex. Reps pass the tax reform bill, and then Tinubu hails IFC $50 million equity investment. And that is all on Blueprint newspaper.
On Vanguard newspaper, the first story, national grid collapse triggers widespread darkness. On tax regime, civil servants pay more than increase in minimum wage, report from the NLC. PDP NWC affirms Ude Okoye as National Secretary, while Atiku Wike aren't before us. PDP Disciplinary Committee is giving the reasons why. Reps pass tax reform bill for second reading. Tanker fires, federal government molds ban on trucks with 60,000 litre capacity. The big story is on tariff hike. NLC Films gives March 1st alert to short telecom services. The rider says declares 3-hour boycott of all operators services from today. Asks Nigerians to suspend purchase of data. Telcos talk tough, says Labour moving towards treason. NatCom's bench NCC asks regulators to redeem image by sanctioning telcos. You can find details on page 4. I know NLC is asking Nigerians to suspend purchase of data, but the thing is, and the question is, can Nigerians really suspend the purchase of data? You just made mention how businesses, a lot of individuals thrive on this data. So regardless, people are finding alternative because some people is their business. This is how they make money today, and it's important. So can we really not purchase data? I think the problem should be more of do something concerning the hike and also concerning the poor network. But as far as purchasing data, I think that might be difficult because this is something that is highly consumed in the country. You can find details on page 5. Poisonous gas, 10 students hospitalized as Ibadan Poly probes incident. 124 journalists killed worldwide in 2024, a report from CPJ. You can find details on page 9. We have a sports column on page 32, 2026 FIFA World Cup. Super Eagles must secure World Cup spot, Para is saying. And then we have a picture story, one with Tony Olimelu Foundation and Sheikh Nayan Foundation signed partnership deal in the UAE. And then we have one with digitization and financial inclusion, where we can see Mr. Femi Adeniran, Director Corporate Communication and CSR Airtel Nigeria, Mr. Dinesh, and we have CEO Airtel Nigeria, Mr. Oluyemi, okay, that's the CEO of Airtel. And then we have Mr. Oluyemi Cardoso, Governor Central Bank of Nigeria. We have Mr. Sunil, Group CEO Airtel Africa, and Mr. Jadip Pani, Group CFO Airtel Africa. When the Airtel team paid a strategic visit to the CBN to discuss issues hindering on rural digitization and financial inclusion. And that's all the news on Vanguard newspaper.
On Daily Independent newspaper, Independent Award and inspiration to do more coming from Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State. Tariff hike, NLC asks workers, citizens to boycott telco service 3 hours daily. Threatening shutdown of telco's operation nationwide, more detailed in the paper. Reps pass controversial tax reform bill for second reading. The writer says Tinubu tax regime choking workers bearing the brunt. This is coming from NLC. PDP NWC divided over affirmation of Ude Okoye as the national scribe. Anyawu Autumn orders Sean Inkibi led disciplinary panel. Gunmen open fire on soldiers in Rivers community. Detail found on page 6. And we have IFC $15 million equity investment in Lagos free zone drills Tinubu. Catholic bishop decried rising food insecurity and herdsmen attack. Still on the paper, Tinubu plan to mainstream AI to expand digital infrastructure. Downside of the paper, TEF partners 2 UAE bodies to empower 1,000 young African entrepreneurs. Data found on page 6, and that's all the Daily Independent newspaper.
On the Daily Monitor, DSS is a friend, not fiend. This is a statement from the DG. Nigerian firms push for $1.5 billion stake in Bonga North project. House of Reps passes Tinubu's tax reform bill for second reading. We will make Edo envy of other states, says Opebelo. The big story, furor as top customs police officers refuse to retire. Rep summon NCS boss over alleged top personnel's refusal to retire. NLC demands immediate reversal of telecom tariff hike, directs workers orders to boycott services of telcos for 3 hours daily. Now we have a picture story where we can still see returnee of Nigerians coming back from Libya, and I wonder when we finish, when we finally have every Nigerian out of Libya, because it's really taking a long while. And then we need to commend NEMA because they have been trying, and also the Ministry of Nigerians in Diaspora have also been doing a great job making sure that we have Nigerians out of danger zones and all of that. And that's all the news on the Daily Monitor.
On Metric newspaper, Tony Elumelu Foundation, UAE commits $6 million to support 1,000 Africa entrepreneurs. Still on the Metric newspaper, tariff hike, telcos have betrayed agreement by implementing increase coming from NLC, and the NLC threatens shutdown, demands reversal of hike. Trump holds calls with Putin, Zelensky on Ukraine peace talks. You can find more detail of that on page 23. PDP National Working Committee seals Anyanwu's fate, affirms Ude Okoye as the National Secretary. To send resolution affirming Ude Okoye to INEC, says we are bound by judgment of Court of Appeal on the matter. We will remain committed to our constitution, rule of law. This is coming from PDP. JAM wants candidate against illegal registration centers, because already there are certain centers that have been on the red map. So you do well to find out those centers so that you don't fall victim to those illegal registration centers. North Central APC Baganduji declares him best choice to continue leading the party. We will recall the statement he said yesterday. But the question is it based on zoning or based on competence and actually what that person can deliver? So you can read more detail of that inside the paper. Cleric calls for ban on Valentine's Day celebration in Nigeria. Yesterday we saw where they said people should behave and not get into risky behavior for Valentine's. So here, Cleric is calling for ban on Valentine's Day celebration in Nigeria, and I wonder how, if that will be possible. And then we have the picture story ahead of the AAM 2025. We can see the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edu, and President of Arsenal Bank, Professor Benedict, at the signing ceremony of the agreement to host the 2025 Afrexim Bank annual meeting in Abuja yesterday. Downside, we have an entertainment story. You can do a trade on page 20, and that's all the Metric newspaper.
On Nigerian News Direct, the big story, NLC declares telecom boycott over 50% tariff hike, urges workers to disconnect daily. At the top of the paper, Nigeria's deep water production can meet targets with investment-friendly policies, the MD of SNEPCO is saying. Leadership tussle, PDP NWC backs Board of Trustee, Governors affirms Ude Okoye as National Secretary. Residents block highway protest renewed bandit attacks in southern Kaduna. Reps pass tax reform bills for second reading. Tony Elumelu Foundation, UAE Khalifa bin Zayed Foundation signed $6 million partnership to empower 1,000 entrepreneurs. And that's all the news on Nigerian News Direct.
On First News newspaper, start with an entertainment story on the front page of the paper. Tubaba moves on fast, spark romance bursts with Edo lawmaker after Annie's split. You can read more detail if you are interested in that story. Only Tinubu can replace NDDC MD, federal government tells political agitators. We have PDP National Working Committee confirm Ude Okoye as the National Secretary, ends leadership dispute. Reps probe custom boss over officers' alleged refusal to retire. And on tariff hike, shun telecom service 3 hours daily, NLC urges Nigerians. The big story, dark days again. Power grid collapse plunges Nigeria into darkness twice in 2025. Nigeria eyes AI dominancy as Tinubu Google seal landmark tech deal, where we can see the picture story there, where we can see the president and Google CEO. This was during the discussion on the AI and digital innovation in Paris, forging a strategic partnership to advance Nigeria's tech ecosystem. This happened yesterday. Anambra government seal Okoja Shrine. You can find that story in the paper. 40 million Nigerians addicted to harmful drugs. This is a report coming from the NDLEA. You can do a read more detail of that story, and that's all of First News newspaper.
On Silent Times, Ghana's former finance minister wanted for corruption. Tinubu's tax reform bills passed for second reading at Reps. Alleged rape of 17-year-old girl, court remands police officer in Kirikiri prison. Omotekun rescues 16 victims of sexual abuse in Ogun. Court sentences man to death by hanging for murder of mortuary owner in Rivers. Federal government takes full ownership of Keystone Bank after Sigma Gulf's plea deal. The big story, NLC threatens shutdown, demands reversal of telecom tariff hike, asks workers, public to boycott telecom services 3 hours daily. National grid collapses for the second time in 2025. We still have the picture where we can see President Bola Ahmed Tinubu alongside the Google team in Paris and also Minister of Communication, Innovation and Digital Economy, Tijani, and that's all the news on Silent Times newspaper.
On the Nation newspaper, Tony Elumelu Foundation UAE signed $6 million pact to empower entrepreneurs. Still on the Nation newspaper, rumbling in PDP deepens. Dama Gum takes a different position on National Secretary Autumn Anya Hushon's Inkipi panel. How to deploy AI digital tech for development by Tinubu. You can read that on page 3. Your arrest fear erupts. Omokiri tells Erufai. You can read that story on page 4. House softens stance on tax reform bill proposal set for public hearing. Downside of the paper coming from US, qualified Nigerians can apply for visa online. And then UK warned of fake visa offers where they say a number of people are there illegally. So UK is also looking into doing something about illegal immigrants. You can read detail of that on page 25. And that's all on the Nation newspaper.
On New Telegraph newspaper, the first story, oil gas sector posts 6.69 trillion naira in revenue amid escalating energy prices. On investment, nowhere matches Africa's ROI potential, says Elumelu. You can find details on page 25. New Telegraph's Lifetime Achievement Award excites Wamoko. Reps pass tax reform bills for second reading. You can find details on page 2 and 9. Federal government exceeded revenue collection by 120% in 2024, says Wale Edun. Negotiations on ending Ukraine war to begin immediately after call with Putin, a statement from Trump. The big story, NLC declares war on telcos, directs boycott of services till month end. Threatens total shutdown March 1st if 50% tariff raise not reversed, says tariff hike execution betrayal of trust. At last, PDP recognizes Ude Okoye as National Secretary, says party bound by appeal court judgment. Anyawu Autumn Sean Ikimi Committee, former governor's lawyer rights committee demands retraction of statement. Federal government reviews plan to counter violent extremism, says its threat to national security. 5 failed written tests for AGF position. 14 million Nigerians are drug addicts, says NDLEA. You can find details on page 6. We have a study that says plastic in human brains linked to dementia. So it means we have to watch what we eat because sometimes it's from the food and the packaging. These mycotoxins find its way to our brains and now we can see it linked to dementia. You can find details on page 29 and that's all the news on New Telegraph newspaper.
On Business Day newspaper, universities demand 1.5 million naira in medical courses racket, where we're seeing that Nigeria universities are actually illegally asking qualified applicants to medical courses to pay about 1.5 million naira each before being offered admission, and this is what Business Day was able to find out. So you can read more detail of what the University Association is doing about this. Nigerian cold storage crisis open 160 billion naira opportunity. More Nigerians to celebrate Valentine as luxury spending grows. Already we're beginning to see a number of packages for Valentine everywhere. So this is what business is able to get. As well, we have disease resistance treatment for $50 million investment. You can read that story on page 33. And that's all on Business Day newspaper.
On Punch Sport Extra, the big story, no rival, a question. Wabali stands alone at the top amid Eagles goalkeeper crisis. Atlanta plays 60 million euros price tag on Lukman. Balogun denies retirement claims. Why Joshua rematch never happened? This is a statement from Klitschko. Osimhen out of Europa League clash. You can find details on page 7. Barca, I, Gukares, Isak. And we have Chelsea prepare 70 million euros barriers offer. United players question Amorim tactics. Havertz out for season. Drake hails Durant after new NBA record. Ajaba talks tough ahead of Bakole clash. And that's all the news on Punch Sports Extra.
And that is how far we can go on the program. Thank you so much for keeping up with us. We look forward again to the news together tomorrow. Do have a lovely day ahead.